Good morning. Good morning. Namaste. Welcome to Mindset, Heartset, Reset. We're so excited to have you with us wherever you're joining in from, whether it's here on Humanity's Team live stream, it's on Facebook, which we know has been having a few challenges today. So we hope you're all with us today, and also YouTube. We're just excited that you're all able to join us. We can't wait for everyone to come in because we have a show for you today. We have the most wonderful guests lined up. And guess what? We are celebrating happiness all month. International Day of Happiness is coming up towards the end of the month. And so we're here to talk about happiness, understand happiness, and share with our guests some insights that are going to benefit us all. So welcome to Heartset, Mindset, Reset. This show is really our dynamic weekly show. We like to provoke introspection, cultivate compassion, and spark positive change in ourselves and the world around us. Through our insightful discussions with our remarkable guests, we're going to share practical tools that are going to include a lot of authentic stories you're going to be able to relate to, and it's going to nurture and empower your mindset, open your heart to connections close to you and around the world, and we're going to encourage you to hit that reset button on your own lives. Our mission is simple. We are here to expand love at a global scale with a vision to shift humanity's future into the one that we're all going to thrive and that we all want to be in. So thank you so much for coming. It's great to see everybody coming in. We're going to start off the show. I'm going to introduce my co-host today. My name is Jacqueline Way. I'm the founder of 365 Give, and I sit on the board of advisors for Humanity's Team. My co-host today that will be joining me is Dr. Roshanak Hashimune. I'm so excited to have this show with her. We're excited to always invite our guests in. I'd like to share a little bit about Dr. Roshanak with you. She is a credentialed computational, clinical, and behavioral neuroscientist. She makes me look like a superhero, really. And her work supports transformation of countless lives all over the world. She's the founder of Access to the Path, and she combines this beautiful power and process of science mixed with emotional and spiritual intelligence to really generate and help you create innovative strategies that will help you, people and businesses all over the world become more purposeful and effective and prosperous in your own life. So Dr. Roshanak, welcome to the show today. I'm so excited to get started. Would you like to introduce our show and our guest?
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Hello, everybody, and happy day today. We have our new episode of Mindset, Heartset, Reset. And this month, March, we are kicking off, we are launching our amazing Increasing Happiness series. Yay! And who better to do it with than the inimitable Marci Shimoff. She is our guest today. We are so excited to have her join us. I'll tell you a little bit more about her in just a second. I'm going to tell you about the show first. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We're so happy to have you here. Today, we are going to be asking you the question, do you want to be happy no matter what? Yes, you do. And Marcy's just the person to help you do it. So today, we're going to learn about good reasons to be happy, bad reasons to be happy, no reason to be happy, being happy for no reason at all. This is that sustainable happiness that we are all looking for. And I can't wait till we get into it. We're going to learn about happiness, what it means, the practice of it, how we can understand our happiness set point, what we might be able to do to change it, raise it. Yes, that's what we want. And to understand so much more about what it is that we're doing that's contributing to our happiness, what it is that we can do that can sustainably, regularly keep us in that beautiful state that we all want. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for today. We have a lot going on. We're going to learn about the unexpected truth of being happy. We're going to learn so many truths about being happy. So without further ado, let me introduce to you our fabulous, our absolutely wonderful guest, Marci Shimoff. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her because she is extraordinary. I'm going to read this so that I don't mess it up. Marci is a #1 New York Times bestselling author, a world-renowned transformational teacher, and an expert on happiness, success, and unconditional love. Marci's books include the runaway bestsellers Happy for No Reason and Love for No Reason, 2 separate books, and 6 titles in the phenomenally successful Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul series. Got to check out these books. They're amazing. All of them, I mean. Her books have sold more than 16 million copies. You see, I'm not the only one who thinks they're amazing. Worldwide and in 33 languages. They've topped all of the major bestseller lists and have been on the New York Times bestseller list for a total of 121 weeks. Marcy is one of the best-selling female nonfiction authors of all time. Yes, and she's our guest. Marcy is also the host of the national PBS television special called Happy for No Reason, is a featured teacher on The Secret, and is a narrative for the award-winning film Happy. Marcy currently hosts a podcast called Living in the Miracle Zone and leads a worldwide program called Your Year of Miracles with thousands of participants from over 80 countries for living a life of miracles. Marcy has inspired millions of people around the world and is dedicated to helping people live more miraculous, empowered, and joy-filled lives. Please join me in welcoming our show today, our special honored guest today, Marci Shimoff. Welcome, Marcy.
Thank you, Roshanak. Thank you, Jacqueline. And thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm looking forward to having a wonderful time with everyone. And I'm happy for great reason to be here with you. I know this is,
well, we're so happy that you joined us. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Jacqueline, let's come over to you for the first question.
Let's just, I'm not even going to wait. Marcy, I'm so excited to have you to the show today. Happiness is one of my favorite topics because really, isn't that why we came? We want to experience as much happiness as we can in our life. And I love the approach and the understanding, the teaching that you're giving the world. And we're happy to share it with everybody here today. And I'm going to get started with the basics because I know our audience, we all look and perceive happiness in a different way. We understand it from different perspectives based on our own life. But most of all, let's start with the definition. What is happiness to you, Marcy?
Yeah, I love that we're starting with that question because I think it's so important. I think most of the world views happiness in one way. I call it most of the world goes for what's called happy for good reason. When I get this, then I'll be really happy. Or when I get that, then I'll finally be really happy. And what I believe is the happiness that we all really want. And Aristotle said that happiness is the goal of all goals. It's the be all and end all of life. It's what we want the most. We want to be happy. And so my definition of happiness is what I call happy for no reason, which means an inner state of peace and well-being that doesn't depend on our circumstances. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to feel grief when someone dies. That's natural, or that you're going to feel upset or angry at times. That's absolutely natural. You're not going to walk around 24/7 with a silly grin on your face. What it means is that you have an inner state of peace and well-being that is the backdrop to your life, so that no matter what happens, you have that state of inner peace and well-being. And then life becomes not so completely contingent on the outside world looking a particular way for you to be happy. To me, this is why it's lasting happiness and it's freedom. It's freedom because it's internal. It's an inside job.
You are speaking my language right now. I love that. That word freedom has been my intention for this year for myself personally. So every time I hear it and it's connected to love and happiness and this internal side of ourselves, I just love your definition. And I think it's something that if we could all take that definition and live by it, wouldn't the world be a different place? And we're going to talk about that as well a little later in the show, and how that's going to reflect back not only ourselves, but the bigger picture and frequency of the world. Now, I'm going to ask this because I think sometimes a lot of people, they look at happiness experts and they're like, yeah, but look at Marcy. She's successful. She's a best-selling author. She has all these things. She has these programs. She's beautiful. Well, of course, why wouldn't she be anything but happy? But what we know is that process of happiness takes time to get to the understanding you're sharing today. Can you share with us some of, did you just come out this way? Can you share some of your journey? Because we know that all of us have a journey to get there.
Yeah.
Can you share some of that with us that will give us some perspective and understanding?
I would be delighted to. I'm always asked wherever I speak is, well, Marcy, you were always happy, right? And my answer is absolutely not. I was born depressed. I came out of the womb with what I call existential angst. I had a great family. I had great parents. I had everything on the external was great. but I had this internal kind of angst. I mean, I remember when I was 5 years old and all the kids were out playing and I was worrying about, the suffering in the world. And I was depressed throughout my whole childhood. I now believe that I came in with either ancestral trauma or past life kind of trauma, something, and it shaped how I felt. So my solution to my unhappiness as a kid was sugar.
Oh, yes.
I
That's so
became
good.
addicted to sugar, and it would make me happy for 10 minutes or a half an hour, and then I would crash. So that didn't really work very well. And by the time I was in high school, I was about 35 pounds overweight, not adding to the happiness factor. So when I was in my early 20s, I did what most people do. And that is I set goals for myself. And I figured that once I got those goals, then I would be happy. And I set 5 goals for myself, and I'll share them with you because I think that a lot of people can relate to this. I wanted to have a successful career helping people. I wanted a wonderful husband or life partner, fabulous friends, a comfortable home, and the equivalent of Halle Berry's body.
Is that all?
I got 4
I'm
out of
still
the
working
5.
on that one.
Right, I got 4 out of the 5. I do not have Halle Berry's body, but I have a very healthy body for which I'm grateful. And I will tell you, I worked really, really hard to get all my ducks in a row so that I could finally feel happy. And I had a turning point moment in this whole journey. It was in 1998. I had 3 books in the top 5 on the New York Times bestseller list at the same time. I had just finished giving a speech to 8,000 people, and I had autographed 5,432 books. They counted up how many books that I was signing, and they had a massage therapist there to massage my hand every few minutes so I could keep on autographing. And on one hand, I felt like an author rock star. But I remember after signing that very last book, I went up to my hotel room, which was the penthouse suite. And I was in Chicago, and I walked over to these huge windows that overlooked Lake Michigan. And I took in that amazing view on top of the world. And I turned around and I collapsed onto the bed and I burst into tears. And I burst into tears because I realized that I had gotten everything that I thought I needed to be happy. And I still felt that emptiness in my heart that I had always felt. And I realized this was the end of the road. I could no longer fool myself into thinking that just that next thing would do it, because I'd learned often enough that just that next thing did do it for a week, maybe a month, but it didn't really solve that. And so I committed at that moment that I was going to figure out this thing. I was going to find out what really makes people happy. And I started interviewing all the happiness researchers. The field of positive psychology was just burgeoning. It was like perfect timing. And I started interviewing people that I called my happy 100, because I got 100 of them that were unconditionally happy. And I started doing what the researchers told me and what these people I interviewed told me to do. And I will tell you that I started becoming happier and happier and happier. And I would say that back then, before I started this process, I would have, if you were grading me, I would have been a D+ in happiness. And I can say that now I'm an A. I'm a solid A. And I'm still a work in progress. I'm always working on it. But it's a significant shift. And that's why I ended up writing Happy for No Reason. I started sharing this with my mother, who was a lovely woman, but had always been depressed. And she was in her 80s at the time, and it was working on her, my 80-year-old mother. And I thought, oh my God, this really works. So that's why I ended up writing Happy for No Reason. I've now shared this with over 1 million people. And I know that it works for anyone, no matter where they are on that happiness continuum, whether they're starting off depressed or whether they're starting off already happy. Wherever you are, you can become happier.
I love that. I think this is one of the most common things, one of the most common mistakes that people make. And I know that well over a decade ago, probably closer to 2, I was talking to my little brother, and my mom had passed, and he was waiting to be happy. He said, I will be happy when. And I said to him, you can't do that, because when will never come, Because whenever we say, I will be happy when, now in your case, you reached your happiness markers, but in most people, and you recognized it, in most people's cases, once they start getting close to it, they move it.
Right.
They move the target. So
Right.
when, because they're not fulfilled, we could say happy, we could say fulfilled, right? They thought they would feel a different way than they feel. And so they're thinking, oh, well, it must be this other thing. And so before they get to and have the opportunity to be let down and to not be happy, they say, I will be happy when, and move the target. So I appreciate so much that you brought that up, because I think it's extremely significant for the audience, because so many people are doing it.
Yeah, can I make a quick comment about
Yeah,
that? I so appreciate that you said that. I found that there are two main myths that we as a society get stuck.
Okay, we're gonna hold up for 1 sec. We've just got Marcy. Marcy,
Oh,
hang on for
she's
1
back.
sec.
She's back.
I'm
You're
having a
back.
little connection issues.
But you're
Marcy,
back
do you want
now.
to try? Do you want to try dropping back down to the 420?
Um,
And
If you
let's
go
see
at
if
the
that may
bottom of
help
the
a little
screen
bit.
and you look at your settings,
sure. Okay. There we go.
and then you'll see camera. And on
Okay.
the right,
There we
you'll say
go.
I
camera
got
resolution.
it. Okay.
Great. Okay,
Good.
let's give that a try and see if that makes any difference. Yay,
Okay.
yay technology.
So you said that, I'm going to assume you can hear me. So just to refresh it for the audience, that it was that you were going to bring up the myths, two myths about
Yes.
happiness.
Yes. So the first myth is just what you said. I'll be happier when, and it's always, I'll be happier when I make more money, or I'll be happier when I get married, or I'll be happier when I get divorced, and it is a moving target, which is why it doesn't work. And then the second myth is the myth of more. It's closely related, but yeah, we never have enough. I always need more. I always need more. And the reality is we have a multi-billion dollar, probably $1 trillion industry that is there to convince us that we will not be happy until we have more, or until we have when. So we these are the societal messages that we are really having to deal with. And this is why it's really important to learn differently, because there's nothing wrong with any of us for believing I'll be happier when, or I'll be happy when I have more. The myth of more, or the myth of I'll be happier when, because it's really the way we've been taught. And what we're about here, and I so appreciate what this show is about, and what you all are doing with your program, is it's about the reset. It's about shifting where we come from.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Yes.
So that was so important. Thank you for that, because it is really, I mean, when we talk about what we're being fed, it's such a different story, right? And what we consume literally from the outside in, the world tries to tell us that, it's not enough ever, right? It's just more and more and more and more. We can't get to more until we're just good with right where we are.
Yes.
So.
And that, and as a neuroscientist, I can say that, these, or as a scientist at all, that these bodies are more prone to environmental influences than we realize, than we give ourselves credit for, that we give the body, the truth. And if we're not paying attention to what we're consuming through all of our senses, then we're going to have an uphill battle, or a harder battle. There's going to be more resistance. We're going to be fighting more. We're going to be going against more to bring in from maybe the inside out, when we can also help protect what's coming from the outside in. Mm-hmm. So having said that, I want to ask you, please, Marcy, what do you think is a fundamental principle, now that we've talked about the things that are what we are looking at and what we tend to do? What is a fundamental principle that is overlooked typically when we're thinking about happiness and how to be more happy? Mm-hmm. And how would incorporating that principle significantly contribute to our happiness?
Well, I so appreciate that question. I think in preparation to answer that, I want to just share the one piece of scientific research about happiness that really shifted my understanding of everything. And that is that we all have a happiness set point. And it's like a thermostat setting. And no matter what happens to us, whether it's good or whether it's bad, we will tend to hover around our thermostat setting unless we do something consciously to change it. So that is really the key to our happiness. It's the set point. It's not in anything else. So let's look at how is that set point determined. Your set point is 50% genetic.
True.
I was not born with the great genes. So you think, oh, what a bummer. But let me come back to that in just a second. It's only 10% our circumstances. Now, this is where the world gets stuck. It's we've just spoken about. It gets stuck in that 10% of circumstances. If I change the circumstances, then I'll be happier. Well, that's not a very wise thing to do if it only accounts for 10% of your set point. The other 40% of the happiness set point, which is where we can really make the shift, is our habits of thoughts and behavior. That's where we've got the power. And I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm going to go back to that 50% that's genetic. And as you both know, there are scientists in the field of epigenetics, like Dr. Bruce Lipton, who wrote The Biology of Grief. And they say that when we shift our habits, we can influence or change the genetic expression. So that means that 90% of our happiness set point is in the habits, can be changed or modified by the habits that we have. So to me, that's the principle that we need to look at is I have the ability, no matter what my life history has been, no matter what my genes are, no matter what, I can shift my happiness set point. Science has cracked the happiness code, and that is we know what it takes to be happier. I think this should be headline news. I think this should be out in the schools. Here we are. We want happiness more than anything. And yet we suffer from an epidemic of unhappiness in our society. 1 out of 4 women in North America is on antidepressants. Only 20% of people say that they are deeply happy. We know how to change it. Let's go about this. And then, so thank you for highlighting happiness this month, which is when we have the International Day of Happiness in March. And so it's a great thing.
And that's why we did it.
Yeah.
It is. Marcy, I love that you said that, because I think it's so important for people to understand that they go, yeah, but look at my family, look at my parents, look at my grandparents. I have 3 adoptive children who, when you look at their past, they should be depressed, unhappy, stressed. You want people that were born into those circumstances from their past, but we recognize it. I don't negate that for them by any means. We've dug into all of it. But what we know is that when that awareness that you're bringing today, and that when we start to look at it, you can even bring that to your children so they can start looking at it going, okay, it may be what it was, but look what it can be now. Right. And I have the privilege. I actually teach happiness classes to children in schools, and they are, it's amazing when you bring these conversations to them, when you show them how their brain works and the science behind it, all of a sudden these little light bulbs go on in them and they start to get it. But I really wanted to just highlight that point. It doesn't matter where you come from. I mean, I have children who were just born into hell. But I promise you, it can all change as we begin to create that learning and understanding. And it can happen at any time in life. It doesn't even have to happen as a child. It can happen right today. So thank you for this gift you're bringing to everybody here today.
I really want to say that it can happen anytime. There's that whole thing. We can't change. My mother, as I said, she was in her 80s. I taught her this. When she was 87, she passed away at 88. When she was 87, she had an emergency surgery. And I remember it was like 4-hour surgery. And after, she was waking up and she had tubes coming out of everywhere. She had tubes coming out of her arms and out of her mouth and out of her nose. And I leaned over as she was opened her eyes. I said, Mom, how are you? She looked up at me and she said, honey, I'm happy for no reason. I said, oh yeah, Mom, you got it. She's coming out of surgery. She's happy for no reason.
I love it.
On this.
That is so beautiful.
Love that.
That is so beautiful. God rest her soul. That's beautiful. Yay, Mom.
Yay, Mom.
Yay, Mom. Chime off. Let me take this now, if you don't mind, to the next question then. So, okay, so you think that the a fundamental principle of happiness that is by and large ignored, and I agree with you, is the happiness set point. Is that correct?
I do. I think that,
Mm.
other principles I would say fundamentally is that happiness is our birthright.
Yeah.
It's what we're here for. And that happiness is one of the things I found is that, there's two energies in the universe. There's the energy of expansion and the energy of contraction, and that's it.
Yes.
And when we become happier, we are in the energy of expansion. So we follow energetically expansion. In fact, I'll do a little experiment with both of you and with everybody if you'll play along. I love
Right.
people experience this. So I want us to just experience what it's like to feel expanded or contracted. So let's get really contracted. Curl up into a little ball, get very tight, make tight muscles. And on the count of three, I want you to say, I feel happy. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
I
feel
feel happy.
happy. Okay, sit up.
Okay.
Sit up. Sit up now. You can sit up. Did you feel happy?
Not so much. I mean,
It's hard to
it
feel
was
good.
harder than
Curled up in a crunched ball. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Contained.
I want you to go like that. We're going to get really expanded, expansive energy. And on the count of three, I want you to go, I feel. Yeah. And this is everybody. Play along.
Come on, everybody. We're all in on this one.
Come on, everybody.
2, 3. I feel
happy.
No, depression. I feel depressed.
No.
No, I want you to do that. I want you to experience it. You'll see. That's the experiment. Okay. 1, 2, 3. I feel depressed.
No.
Depressed.
No.
When you're expanded, it's hard to feel bad. So does this mean I want you walking around like this all day long? Of course
Yes.
not. They'll lock you out.
Oh, come on.
Oh, I do that some days, Marcy.
Yeah, I kind of do that too.
Okay, well, you can kind of.
When I run down the seawall in the mornings, I'm doing that, and everybody's looking at me going, what is this woman doing?
What's wrong with her? But
You're like at Happiness Central here, Marcy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that we deny what's not working.
Right.
It doesn't.
True.
I'm not sugarcoating anything. There are
No.
very effective ways to deal with the challenging things in our life. But what it means is work through. Just look to on a regular basis. Where do I feel expanded? And move towards where you feel expanded. And sometimes it's working through the old stuff, so that there's levels of healing that will bring you to expansion.
You need the space for happiness, don't you? It's so expansive. You need that space. Dr. Roshna, do you mind if I can we go to the question I want to talk about, just about the essence? Because I think this is so timely for that.
Okay.
Do you mind if we do that for a minute? We were just talking about one of the questions we really wanted to talk to you about, and was this vibration, and you've just touched on it a little bit. And I think since we're right here, I personally think there is a vibration to happiness in the big picture of things. And you just gave us a little exercise that started to make us feel that way. And, our community here at Humanity's Team, we work on vibration. We understand this so much in the work that not only do we do with Humanity's Team, but happiness on a deeper level. We asked the question, what does happiness mean to you? Or what's the definition when we started this? Can we talk a little bit about this essence of happiness at this point? Wow. And what's the difference between just, the expression or being happy, or the action of happy, or the emotion of happy? Let's talk about that essence. What's the vibration of happiness? Why are we trying to get to that point rather than just, the smile on our face? Right. Can we talk about that vibration and the essence of happiness versus just, looking happy on the outside?
Oh yeah, I won that card game.
Right. It's like, and then 5 minutes later, it's like, it's gone. Right.
Let me just, if I can add to that a little bit, the way that the analogy that I use is that, if you think of the ocean, right? They're the waves that come and go. They're breaking all the time on the top. And these are our emotions. And oftentimes we unfortunately think of happiness as that, but those are coming and going all the time. And it's in the depth of the ocean, in that stillness, that I think is that essence of happiness you're talking about, Jacqueline, which I call joy. I kind of differentiate by using joy versus happiness, right?
Yes. So your definition of joy is my definition of happy for no reason. It's that,
there you go.
That inner state of peace and well-being. And I so appreciate the analogy of the waves in the ocean. I became a teacher of meditation when I was 19. I actually went to a meditation college where all the students and staff and faculty meditated, and my teacher used that same analogy that there's the waves on the ocean, but then there's the depths of the ocean, and that is so. If the ultimate, what really happy for no reason is awakening. It's awakening to the truth. It's the vibrational essence of the truth of who we are, which is not this limited ego-based structure. It's not the small self. The small self is the waves on the ocean, the personality, the ego structure. The truth of who we are is the big self, the big S self, the higher self, the one that is connected with all of life, the infinite. And that's the same as your analogy of the infinite, the ground of the ocean. And that's, to me, really happy for no reason in its essence is the state of awakening.
I love
state
that.
of enlightenment, whatever it is you would want it, the state of freedom.
So
State of identification with the soul rather than identification with the personality.
Right. That's the big S versus the little s, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You wrote a book, Happy for No Reason, but you also wrote a book, Love for No Reason.
Right.
In my mind, in my heart, the kernel truth, the seed, the pure seed of joy, or this essence of happiness, happy for no reason, and love are one and the same. Can you, since you wrote a book called Happy for No Reason and Love for No Reason, can you speak to that a little bit?
I would agree with you 100%. I would totally agree with you. Happiness, happy for no reason in its ultimate form is really this, is love. It's unconditional love.
Yeah.
It's unconditional happiness, it's unconditional love, it's unconditional freedom. It is that state of all being, all bliss. Some refer to it as Sat Chit Ananda, and in the Vedic culture, Sat Chit Ananda, truth, consciousness, and bliss. Peace. Yeah.
Freedom, right? All those good words.
All of it. It's
all of it.
I think they're flavors of the same thing.
Yeah.
They're flavors of the same ultimate truth.
Yes.
And,
I feel so
honored. I rarely get to talk about this level of
well, you're on Mindset Heartset Reset now.
Exactly. You're talking.
Thank you.
Marcy, I wanted to share with you. It's really interesting because with my charitable organization,
I was just going to talk about you. That's funny.
Yeah, our whole concept is, this is something I started with my son when he was just 3 years old, because I believe that we all have the ability to give. And so we always talked about, and this is where it's really neat for me, because I know you talk about altruism as well. We always said that giving was your daily dose of happiness. And that's how really the message, and we still give that message across to help people understand that when we're of service to the world, it's really the benefit comes to us and the beautiful gift of happiness we get. But I came to understand that shift too, that it wasn't just happiness. It's actually love in action. And that's what we talk about so much now, is that, yes, it is happiness. It's all of those things. It's peace, it's joy, it's fulfillment, it's purpose. But most of all, it's love. And so, that's the beauty that I'm getting from you right now, is that when we all come back to it, we can call it happiness. We can, but we can't say it in too many different ways. And that's what we really were so excited about having you come to the show today, so that people can see this from every angle. Yes, it is happiness, and yes, it is peace, and yes, it is freedom, but it all comes back to love. And I love you just tied that in for everyone. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. And what I really want to emphasize is that it's not something so abstract or so far away. It's actually really practical things that we can do to move into that state. And I know we're probably going to get into some of the practical stuff soon. Yes,
we are. We want all the tricks.
I want to make sure that I cover the practical things that people can do.
We're going to get there.
They're happy to set point and to really bring this into it, because what we're doing is we're raising our vibrational level. We're raising our consciousness. That's what.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, there's so many things, right? It just keeps going. Well, I was going to say, we talked a little bit about this at the beginning, Marcy. When we raise our own vibrational state, that essence, how does that affect us? And then what's the bigger impact on the world around us as well? I don't think people always look at how that's connected,
right,
in the bigger picture.
Yeah, there's scientifically shown that a phenomenon called emotional contagion.
Yeah.
We catch the emotions of the people around us just like we catch their colds. This is why you walk into a room and there's been two people fighting. They've done fighting, but you can feel the tension in the air and you're kind of feeling tense from it. Or you get around someone who's just delightful and you pick up that delight. So I think it is our responsibility to shift our energetic vibration, because when we do, we affect the people around us. Some of the research has shown that we affect at least 5 people away from us. So that means your happiness level is impacting your neighbors, cousins, sons, school teacher. And I think, of course, we probably all feel that there is just that we know that when we get together with other people that are like-hearted, like-minded, and perhaps we even meditate together in a group, that the effect is exponential. I mean, there's also research shown that people gathering together to raise their energetic vibration together has an even exponential impact. So I think that it is our responsibility for the world to focus on our own happiness. And yeah, that's why.
Yeah. It's really the one thing we can do, right? When people say, I have no control, no power, but I love that you just shared that with everyone, is that we all have the power to create change in our worlds when it just starts with ourselves. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. The greatest gift you can give anyone when we're looking for, like, what can I do to make a difference, especially with the world in the state that it is now, there is absolute truth to the idea that when you work on yourself, when you create greater alignment of yourself with your actual self, your authentic, I'm trying not to use authentic, but your authentic self, meaning what is it that you wish to bring forth in the world? We're all unique. We are absolutely, every single one of us as unique as fingerprints. And so being able to bring forth our gifts and blessings and express our creativity and improve our skills so that we can express that passion, this brings us into greater alignment with the capital S self, which brings us into a greater state of love and joy and peace. And when we are now in the full shape of the truth of who we are, instead of that distorted shape, right? The number one regret of the dying is, I wish I'd lived a life that was true to myself and not what others wanted for me. Then we don't feel the need to distort others. The energy that we have is much more expansive. And our bodies recognize that, right? Because if you do this, changed your feelings, didn't it? Right away. Because our brains know the signal of what these muscles are doing. What does that mean? We give meaning to things. So I love that we're getting into this, that the fact is that being able to take care of you, be loving and compassionate and attentive in the most beautiful way, in the most divine way of who you're supposed to be for you, is the greatest gift you can give, not only yourself, but everybody else around you, and increase the happiness and the love and the peace and everything. So let me ask you one question as we start to move into maybe a little workshopping.
Well, and we have to tell everybody before we're going too about Marcy's new.
Yeah.
It's here, it's live, it's so exciting. So we'll get there.
In the state of, how the external environment affects us and what behaviors we can exhibit or attitudes we can have, mindsets that we can have that can help support us staying in that stillness versus being tossed about on the waves on the top. What do we do in the face of adversity to preserve, to support our happiness? And maybe how can we leverage it to increase our happiness?
Great question. So my approach is to always start with, what am I doing regularly? What are my daily habits that will help me raise my happiness set point? So when adversity happens, I'm able to bounce back better.
Resilience.
The more you've raised your happiness set point, the more creative you are, the more resilient you are. I mean, the research shows all of that. So it's not let me wait until there's adversity and then I'll deal with it. It's let me
Right.
do it now and I'll be prepared.
So proactive.
Be proactive. Exactly. And then also, I mean, some of the things that I suggest people do in the midst of challenges is to shift perspective. And that is, instead of saying, like, I believe one of the principles of happiness is that this is a friendly universe. Einstein said that the most important question you can ask is this a friendly universe? And happy people will always answer yes. That doesn't mean that life goes their way. What it means is they believe that life is for them. Doesn't mean that life goes the way they think they want, but it means that whatever happens, they feel like life is on their side. And Einstein said that the most important question you can ask is this a loving universe? And people who are happy say yes. And what they believe is that this is a benevolent universe. So if something is happening to you that isn't what you thought you wanted, the most important thing you can do is ask yourself the question, instead of why is this happening to me?
Right.
Is to ask, reframe that and say, if this is happening for a higher purpose, if life is for me, then what's the blessing or the gift in this? If this is happening for my highest good, what could that be? It could be because you need to learn to forgive. Could be because you need to learn to stand up for yourself. It could be because you need to shift some of your priorities right now. There are a million reasons that things might not happen the way you think they do, but in the long run, you look back and you go, oh my God, that tragedy, that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
The blessing is in there.
The blessing is in it. So right now, what's the blessing?
Beautiful.
It's a hard perspective to change, but it's so worth it, isn't it? Right? We were talking a little bit about this last week as well with your great friend Karen Woodward Thomas, and I think what we also learned from her as well is that when you start doing this, those downtimes or the things that feel like they're coming at you so hard or hurt, or offering you the opportunity to, what we talked about a little bit earlier, clean out your closet, those skeletons a little bit, that it happens a little faster. Do you agree that the more you practice this, that all of a sudden those down times or the hard times, all of a sudden they just turn around, and it's like, well, it's not a week anymore. Now it's, 2 days, or it's a day, or it's an afternoon. And all of a sudden, this bottom line, what Dr. Oshanak, you were talking about, the underneath the water, that's just with you. And, you get to bob to the surface a little bit faster each time. What do you think, Marcy?
I absolutely agree with that. I mean, what comes to mind for me is an example of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Certainly hasn't had things happen to him in his life that would be what he would have wanted. And yet, this is one of the happiest, truly happy for no reason human beings. I remember I was in I met with him in the small group a few times. And one time, there were maybe 25 of us in a room, and we were all getting ready to greet him. And there was one guy in the room who was really negative. And I remember thinking, wow, how's that going to go over here? And His Holiness walked in and was just beaming. And the one negative guy just totally shifted. He turned around, his energy just shifted. I think that the stronger energy wins. And in this case,
happy energy wins.
Energy,
but that's physics.
And that goes back to your earlier question. And so I look to examples of people who haven't had the most wonderful circumstances in life happen, and yet there's such an unshakable feeling of happiness. And it, I believe, comes from a perspective of, I might not see the whole picture to life, and I believe that ultimately life is benevolent. And let me look at the benevolence rather than the non-benevolence.
Love it.
Beautiful.
Jacqueline, my dear co-host, shall we engage our lovely Marcy Shimoff in some workshopping and get off the couch moments?
Yes, please. I think that it's time. One of the things we love to give to our guests, and that's so important for us on this show as well, is that people are going to be able to walk away today to get started. And, you know, Marcy, I know that, and we're going to put it up again, your link. I really am encouraging everyone to go to Marcy's link. She has some new programs that are just launching right now. Marcy, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your new program? Because it's just out today. Like, this is like, we get the like exclusive.
I want in. I want in.
Yeah,
We just
exactly.
opened it up an hour before we started here.
Exclusive right here,
Oh,
everybody.
professors, baby.
Once a year, I train 250 hand-selected people to become certified happiness trainers in my Happy for No Reason methodology. And so we've just opened up the applications. The program starts in a few weeks. And we're, so if it feels like you would like to become certified to train happiness, to teach this wherever you want, whenever you want, then I encourage you to go to happyfornoreason.com and look it over, see if that feels like a fit for you. And we would set you up with everybody needs to be interviewed first. It's by application only.
Oh, you know, I love that, because first of all, we can't have too many people teaching happiness in our world. We know just in schools alone, our kids aren't even learning this in school, right? It's like this whole new thing. So please, everybody, go take a look at this. But along the way, you're the one that's going to benefit most from this training, and all the other information that's on Marcy's site. So please go in and take a look. But I'd love to be able to share with people today. We have, you know, one of these things. We have two things we like to do before we end the show with everybody. One is the get off the couch moment. Good. And, you know, we want to make sure that when people leave here today, or when they're watching later on YouTube or Facebook, that they're walking away with a couple of, whether it's one, you just say one, but I don't know, Marcy, you just have so many good ones.
Oh, I can't.
Yeah, 7 and 21.
Yeah, exactly. If you were to choose a couple, we're going to give you a couple today rather than one. If you were to choose a couple of things that we could share with people, the strategies, those tools that today, you got to get off the couch today. Don't wait for this. Don't wait for tomorrow or the next day, because your happiness, it's right here today for you. And I'm so excited, like this, so excited about me today. What's it going to be, Marcy? How are we going to get people off their couches today?
Here's the thing. I have found that there are 21 main happiness habits that anyone can practice to raise their happiness set point. And I found that those 21 habits fall into 7 main areas. And what I want to do first is just go through these 7 main areas very briefly and have everybody look at, where do you think you're the weakest? Because where you want to start is where you're the weakest. That's your Achilles heel. So I'm going to ask you, both of you, Jacqueline and Roshanak, to identify where you're the weakest in this model. Okay. Now, I know it's hard for everybody to remember 7 of anything. So I'm
writing these down as we go.
Okay, good. I created a metaphor or an analogy. I call it building your inner home for happiness. And a home has 7 main categories, 7 main areas. It's got a foundation. It's got 4 corner pillars. It's got a roof, and it's got a garden. So here's how this relates to your 7 main areas of happiness. The foundation is taking responsibility for your happiness and your life. What that means is showing up in life as a victor of life rather than a victim, as a creator of your life or co-creator rather than a victim. You know you're a victim when you are in blame, shame, or complain mode. So you're blaming others. You know, I can't be happy because look at my husband or look at my parents. You're shaming. Shaming is yourself. I can't be happy because look how bad a person I am, or look how, you know, whatever, clumsy I am, or whatever it is. And then complaining. I can't be happy. Look at the weather. The weather's terrible, you know? So it's just circumstances. So if you're blaming, shaming, or complaining a lot, you want to look at the foundation, which is saying, hey, I have control of my happiness and I can do something about it. Then there are the 4 corner pillars, and there's the pillar of the mind, your thoughts. Dr. Roshanak, I know this is where you are an expert. And there is the pillar of the heart, your feelings. I've never met a happy person who had a closed heart.
That's Jacqueline's expertise.
Do you have an open heart? Do you live in gratitude, loving kindness, generosity, giving, altruism, right? Then there's the pillar of the body. Do you have the biochemistry of happiness? Do you have enough endorphins, serotonin, you know, oxytocin, dopamine, all of the happiness related chemicals? That's, by the way, where I was the weakest. Then there's the pillar of the soul. And we've talked about this already. This is our connection to the greater energy of life. I don't care whether you call it God, the divine, creative intelligence, nature, but do you feel a connection to that, to soul, a soul-filled connection? And there's the roof of your home for happiness, and that has to do with your purpose or passion in life. Are you living an inspired life? I believe we're all put on the planet for a reason. It's not an accident that we're here. So are you living the life that your soul is here to live? And by the way, that changes over time. What you were doing in your 20s or 30s is not necessarily what you're going to be doing in your 60s, 70s, or 80s or 90s.
If you had asked us, we'd be here today.
I know.
We have a good giggle over it, right?
I know. And then finally, there's the garden. And the garden is, who are you surrounded by? We've already spoken about the power that the people have around us. So do you have a lot of weeds in your garden that are dragging you down? Or do you have a lot of roses and gardenias, the people who are uplifting you, inspiring you, encouraging you?
Well, look, everybody, who you're here with today. We got Marcy. Marcy.
Well, and I could say the same thing.
I love it.
You, both of you. I mean, this is a community. What you have here with this program that you're doing is a community of like-minded and like-hearted people that are supporting us in living our most awakened, happy, alive life. So out of those 7 areas, you're taking responsibility for your happiness, your mind, your thoughts, your heart, your feelings, your body, your soul, the roof, your purpose or passion, and then who you surround yourself with. I'm going to ask both of you to identify where are you the weakest. And as I said, my weakness has always been the body, the physiology, the neurobiology of happiness, or the biochemistry of happiness has been where I go when I seem to fall. So Jacqueline, where do you feel is your Hercules heel here?
You know, I love that you went through each one of these, because there's probably, you know, when I'm looking at it, I'm kind of going, well, might be depending on the time of life, different times, different places. You know, I know that, you know, when I first became a mother, I'm a mother of 3 boys, and there's about a decade there where motherhood takes over every aspect of your life. And I realize now that they're a little older, I can stand back from it and I go, I had lost my soul connection. I couldn't be connected. Right. And it was like, I felt like that umbilical cord to who I knew I truly was, I had just clamped it off and I wasn't connected. So there was a really big time there that I would say that was a big part of it. And the other part is, probably it's somewhere between responsibility and mind. I believe we can create our own reality. I think I've been doing it for most of my life. But there's been times, again, where I haven't been saying yes to my own life. There are times where I got stuck in the day-to-day, you know, on the loop, right? Where it's Groundhog Day, and every day was Groundhog Day. And that I can blame that on a lot of things in my life. You know, our husbands are always a great place to start, right? Let's blame it on them. Let's blame it on the kids, all of those things. But at the end of the day, that's my responsibility. Yeah. And I think that's the big part that I've been able to say now is that if I'm stuck in Groundhog Day, that's my fault. That's not anybody else's fault around me. I always have that ability to change what's happening in front of me. Yeah. And as you had shared a big shift in your life, I've done lots of shifts in my life, but I had a huge shift, and Dr. Roshanak knows this, even just this past summer, now in my 50s, everyone, where an opportunity came right in front of me. And in a second, all I had to do was say yes. And in that moment that I said yes, my whole life has changed. My whole life has opened up. I got reconnected beyond what I thought was possible. And then all of these things, but I had to be willing to say yes. And fear held me back. Fear held me back for a long time. Mm-hmm. So now that I'm saying yes, that expansion that we were doing yesterday, that's how I feel every day in my life.
Oh, wonderful.
So that's what I would say is the moment you can say yes, you recognize it, you see this, all the places you're getting stuck, man, it changes everything. And then that state of bliss. So Marcy, you're making me so excited today just to talk about this. I'm like,
that's great. That's so great. So, and I want to know, Dr. Roshanak, and then I'm going to give you a couple of simple hacks, simple things you can do in a couple of these areas that everybody can leave doing. So Dr. Roshanak, where are you the weakest?
Where am I? Okay. Well, before I talk about where I am, I just want to tell everybody who doesn't know, I am in the presence of greatness here. Marcy, clearly you are extraordinary. We're so thrilled that you're here and teaching us what you know, and bringing your light to everybody, which is invaluable. Really, that's priceless. So I really appreciate that. But I also get the joy and pleasure of working with Jacqueline. And for those who don't know, Jacqueline has a TED Talk on happiness that has 8 million views.
Oh my gosh, Jacqueline,
you.
I have to go watch that right away.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
She's not talking about this, but I'm surrounded by happiness experts. I have my own little happiness program, but I'm standing in the presence of
Yeah.
love, light, joy, greatness. And that greatness is the commitment to happiness, to being fulfilled, to being in love. And I always talk about
With life,
in love, is
right?
that state of love. And it's funny that Jacqueline started with her young son at 3 and talking about giving and giving this talk on happiness, and has morphed into love. And we talked about happiness and love. And she walks around like, what would love do? What would love say? Because she
Love
is
that.
embodied love.
Every
right?
day, right?
Yours day. That's such a beautiful question.
Yeah.
Right. So I just want to bring that forth, that
Thank you,
there is
sister.
so much going up here, and it's so beautiful. So
Yeah.
thank
But
you
that
both
beautiful
of you.
thing too, I've done a TED Talk on happiness. Not every day is a happy day, everybody, right? But we get to keep expanding that. And it's what I love Marcy's bringing today, is that keeps evolving. Where I was when I gave that talk and where I am now is a completely different
But
state
you can
of
be happy
being,
all
right?
along the way, right?
Completely. Yeah.
And without
Right?
blaming or shaming yourself that you're not happy enough or happier, or right, because that works against
Yeah.
us. Is that right, Marcy? Right?
Absolutely. We're not letting you go though. We just
Yeah.
want to
Okay.
All right. Come
So
on, Dr.
very
Roshanak.
briefly.
at 2 or 3 really practical, quick things that people.
Yeah. So very briefly for me, my pillars are incredibly powerful. The mind, body, heart, and soul. I was born happy. Very spiritually connect. All that stuff is there. That I've had. So purpose and passion, also since birth. So it has to be between the garden and the foundation. I'm like, but I think for me, there might be some residual in the foundation, as we heal and we grow. And I'm not a complainer. And I talk and I teach about blame and shame all day long. Jacqueline knows this. So, but just because we know something doesn't mean that we are 100% sort of purified, I would say. So there's a little bit of that. But I think my issue would be the garden. Even though I have a beautiful community, I work in transformation. That's what I do. And I've recently moved. And so I've been, so I think and I have the greatest friends in the world. I really do. They are phenomenal. But I've let things slip, and especially since the pandemic. And I say this for anybody else who maybe hasn't gotten back to where they were or reconnected. I know so many people since the pandemic. Also, we haven't gotten back to that beautiful connection that we may have had before. And I think I too need to, and I've been thinking about this anyway, concentrate on that a little bit more, because I know how important our surroundings are. I know how important anybody that we come into contact with at work or at home, whatever our environment is incredibly influential on us. This has been shown scientifically over and over again. So I think that one's going to have to be the one I pick.
Okay, well, good. Thank you for that. So may I give a couple of
Please.
What I've found is that doing some simple things can really make a big difference. Okay. So I'm going to give you 3 simple things that you can do that can make a difference. And I'm going to ask people to pick one of them that most relates to them and what they're going through. So one of them is so easy, and it's similar to your question, Jacqueline, about what would love do. But it's about self-love. And it's what I find is that we lose ourselves. You said as you had your 3 sons and your own connection tended to be harder to connect to. I want you to ask a simple question twice a day. And the question is, and you might want to write this down.
Put it in the chat for everybody.
What's the most loving thing I could do for myself right now? Because what happens is we are not in the habit, and especially I will say women, I know it's a generalization, but I've seen it. We are in the habit of taking care of everybody else, and we come last. So what I want us to do is start to ask the question, what's the most loving thing I could do for myself right now? And then go do it. So it can be something like, I can take a sip of water, which is actually a loving thing that I could do for myself right now.
There you go. My apple cider tea for my
There you
cleansing.
go.
I'm in.
A second option is, or it might be, what's the most loving thing I can do? I can go out and get some fresh air, or I can call a friend and get some support right now, or I can take a few minutes to meditate, or I can do a simple practices, just putting your hand on your heart, breathing into your heart and breathing in love and appreciation. Just that can be a 1 minute practice. I learned that from the Institute of Heart Math, that can really shift you energetically. So
I love that.
that's one thing that you can do, is by taking care of yourself, by asking that question and twice a day stopping to do something that's loving for yourself, you start to habituate. Within a week or two, you're going to habituate a greater habit of self-care and self-love. So that's number one. A second option, if that one doesn't resonate with you, for those of you who have a the body is where it's hard, and that was mine. I tended towards like a low grade depression that was biochemical. I didn't have enough serotonin. There are lots of things you can do to increase your serotonin, but I'm going to give you one that perhaps you haven't heard of. I learned it from a Qigong Song master, Gilles Marin. Qigong Song is focusing on the gut. It's a qigong practice that focuses on the gut, which has a very deep, as I'm sure you know, Dr. Roshanak, a very deep connection to our mind. He said, he gave me this practice to do, and it's called a sunning meditation. And what you do is twice a day, you go outside and you face the sun. And I'll tell you what to do if there's no sun out, like today's a rainy day in San Francisco,
Yeah.
but if there's
And
no
New York.
And okay, well, but here's what you want to do when it's sunny. You go out and you close your eyes as you're facing the sun. Super important. You do not do this with your eyes open. You close your eyes, face the sun. You imagine the sun's rays coming in through your closed eyelids and going into the middle of your head, hitting your pineal gland. You do this for 2 to 3 minutes. It stimulates the pineal gland. It starts creating more serotonin. You can also imagine it flushing through your whole body. The sun's warm rays coming in, lighting up the pineal gland, flushing through your body. 2 to 3 minutes of this twice a day will shift your serotonin levels within about a week. Your serotonin impacts your melatonin. Your melatonin is your sleep, helps your sleep. When you sleep better, your melatonin, you have more serotonin, you're happier during the day. So it's this beautiful cycle of serotonin, melatonin that gets you going. I'll tell you that if somebody comes to me and they're unhappy, that's the first thing I'll tell them to do 3 times, twice a day, is go do the sunning meditation.
Yes. The sunning
Excellent.
meditation.
I love that.
Love it. Okay. You got one more for us. We're not done yet.
The third
We're
one.
going to be so happy at the end of this.
This one, I'll tell you, is going to sound so crazy simple. You're going to go, oh, come on. I know that. But are you doing it? And it is either a gratitude or appreciation practice. Gratitude practice is one that you do on your own. I have one of the women that I interviewed for Happy for No Reason. She pretends she's the awards committee, and she goes out and gives out 5 Academy Awards a day. And so she might see a cute little dog and she goes, oh, that dog gets the cutest dog of the day award. So you're giving out, you're noticing things and you're savoring it for at least 20 seconds. It takes 20 seconds for the good stuff to really stick enough to create new neural pathways in the brain. I hope that I
love you just said that.
Janak.
Good. That was so good.
So you savor the good for 20 seconds. So that's one of the ways of doing gratitude. The other way is appreciation, and that's with another person. And I will tell you a quick story. About 3 years ago, my husband and I were in Hawaii. We've been together 25 years. And we were walking on the beach with some friends of ours who've been together 35 years. And they're a super happy couple. And we said, okay, what is your secret? And they said, I know this is going to sound silly, but for years, we do an appreciation practice. Every night when we go to sleep, every morning when we wake up, we tell each other a couple of things that we appreciate about each other. And so we made a commitment to each other to do that every day for 30 days. Consistency is the key. every night, it'd be something I appreciate about you is that you are, that you have a great sense of humor, or something I appreciate about you is that you did the dishes today. Actually, we just got a new puppy, so I'm appreciating a lot that he's a great puppy papa. And then same thing in the morning. Something I appreciate about you too. A couple of things. It has changed our relationship. So we started doing that a few years ago. We pretty much do that every day.
Wow. That's an amazing one.
So the
So I
appreciation
love that.
practice or the Academy Awards practice or a couple of others.
Mm.
So what I would invite people to do is to pick one of those. I gave you 5 things
Oh my
today.
God. Yeah.
I'm going to review what I gave you. If something's happening to you that you don't like, you ask the question, if this were happening for a higher purpose, what is that? So that's one thing I suggested you. Second thing is, what's the most loving thing I could do for myself right now? Do that a couple times a day. Third thing was the sunning meditation. And the fourth thing was a gratitude practice, pretending you're giving out 5 Academy Awards. Or the fifth thing is the appreciation practice. What you do with your partner when you wake up, or when you go to sleep, or with your family members, your kids, whatever. I gave you 5 things. I want you only to pick one. I don't want you to get overwhelmed. Pick one and commit to doing it for the next week or two. And just notice, use your own life as an experiment. Don't take my word for it. Notice what shifts in your life.
Marcy, I'll give you a little something back, that when we practice gratitude, it also increases serotonin.
Oh, so
It does.
Oh,
It
so
does. There's all of, all of that, those beautiful practices are going to do that and more. You mentioned something earlier, Marcy, and I want to make sure people go back and hear this again, because in case it went past, it was quick, because we call it your daily dose of happiness, and that's your dopamine, your oxytocin, your serotonin, and your endorphins. This is what we're talking about. This beautiful, it's like you can use your body as a tool for your own happiness, right? All you got to do is learn to turn on that switch. This is what we teach to children, honestly, is how do I turn on my happiness switch? And all of these, oxytocin is love. Like, this turns it all on. So I love that you're sharing this, because this is how we can use this beautiful, Dr. Oshanak says it all the time, right? This is the car we got to drive. So let's learn how to make it a Mercedes or a Land Rover or a Lamborghini, whatever your choice is.
Yeah, I'm going high-end handmade
those,
Italian.
Right? But these are the switches we can turn on. And I love that you've shared that with us. And that was such a short little part of our conversation. Obviously, we need to have you back another 20 times, because we've just barely touched the surface, and it's been absolutely fantastic. So thank you for all of these tips. There's no excuse, everyone. Get off the couch. Get off the couch. Just one. That's all you've got to do today. Just one. Dr. Oshanak, and I know we're out of time. We're over time.
Out of time. We're over time, but it was worth the time.
And I do have one last little thing I want to leave everybody with before.
And I was going to ask you exactly that question. So yes.
We spoke earlier about how we impact the world, and and I know that everybody here, you're here. First of all, I think there's no accident that you're here. I think we're here for a reason. This was a divine assignment that we had together. And we all who are here, we want to change the world. We want to help this world of art that needs it. And I believe that the best way we can do this is through raising our happiness set point, awakening to that truth of love that we are, living in that light of our souls. And so I want to share a Chinese proverb that sums up why I am so passionate about this. And I want to leave you with this. And it goes like this. It says, when there is light in the soul, there will be beauty in the person. When there is beauty in the person, there will be harmony in the house. When there is harmony in the house, there will be order in the nation. And when there is order in the nation, there will be peace in this world. And my prayer and my wish for every single one of us is that we know that light in our own souls. And through that, we help create more peace on this planet of ours.
That was the goosebump moment all the way through my body.
Yeah. Putting my hand on my heart, so I get a little oxytocin.
Yeah.
And letting that sink in.
Yes.
Beautiful. We needed that.
Marcy. We did. The world needs that.
Yeah. You're so beautiful, Marcy. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, everybody who has joined us today live. Thank you, everyone who's joining us with the recording. I encourage you to go back and listen again. This was so incredible. What a beautiful episode. Thank you, Marcy. Again, if you want to find Marcy, happyfornoreason.com. There it is on the screen. Marcy, just before we run off, I want to make sure, is there any other way that we should connect with you, or that we know that's what's going on with you? We know you have this brand new program where you're certifying other people to be happiness instructors.
Yes. Yes. So you can go to certifiedhappinesstraining.com, and
There it is.
250 people through this program to become certified in all of this. I highly encourage that. And then the only other thing that I would that I do is I lead a year-long program called Your Year of Miracles, and people can find me at youryearofmiracles.com as well.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Because who doesn't want a miracle, let alone
every day?
Every
Every day. Every day.
To live in the miracle zone. That's
Right.
Life is so sweet.
I like that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And we have a big week again next week. Happiness doesn't stop here, let me tell you. And I'm actually out. I'm in Amsterdam teaching all about love and happiness next week. So I'm not going to be here. But the good news is Dr. Roshanak, she's got the most fabulous guest. She's got us all lined up. She's going to be here. She's going to be live. And Marcy, you would love this one with a great friend of ours, Dr. Stephen Post, who is the mastermind on love and altruism and happiness.
Foremost authority on the science of giving, altruism. Yeah. Right. His last book was Dignity. Beautiful.
Don't miss that episode. I love Dr. Post. I'm gonna be.
Oh, do you know Stephen? He's a great friend of ours.
I put him for my book.
Excellent.
Oh, you did. I love that. That's perfect.
And for our humanities team community, Jacqueline and I have done 2 Global Oneness Day events with Dr. Stephen Post.
With Stephen, yeah.
Which were amazing. And one of them was with Stephen and Neil Donald Walsh. Oh my goodness.
Oh, and
Dr. Roland McCraty from
Heartset. It's like this beautiful community, right? So I love we're all connected. Right. And that's the connection that Dr. Roshanak was talking about earlier, right? This beautiful connection we all have with each other. So thank you everyone for being here. I'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks, but don't miss the show next week. It's going to be a fabulous one. And Marcy, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for everything you've shared with us and given us today. What an absolute gift you have been to us and to everyone who has joined us, and for everyone who is going to be tuning in and listening. You're just a light for our world. Thank you so much for all you're doing.
And thank you for being that light to make the world a beautiful place where all can thrive.
Happier for everybody.
God bless everybody. Take care. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.